It's another hot one from Colorado Springs here at Block Tickets Park as the Rocky Mountain Vibes host the Oakland Ballers for Game 3 of this 6-game homestand. 10 more ball games left to go in the first half, and the Vibes currently on a bit of a scuffle. They have lost 3 in a row, including the first 2 ball games of this series to the Oakland Ballers. Ethan.eibe alongside Jesse Cook with your Rocky Mountain pregame report, and over the next 15 minutes we'll get you set for first pitch, previewing the Nick Powers start, and we'll get you an interview with Vibe center fielder Carter Booth as well. But let's turn our focus to what we witnessed yesterday, Jesse. An 11-4 loss, another tough one for the Vibes.
That's 2 of the biggest losses of the season to kick off this series. It's also the second 3-game losing skid.
Yes, indeed. And also, the Vibes dropping Game 1 of this series by a score of 15-6. So Oakland has thoroughly dominated to this point. But a couple of standout offensive performances from yesterday. Gary Lohr with an RBI double. He's had a couple of good ball games in a row now. And Dane Tofflin with a 2-run triple, his first of the season.
Yeah, he was zooming around the bases, and that's really good to see that he's found his groove after a big struggle during the middle of the first half of the season, but he is back in his own element. And Gary Lohr, that's back-to-back multi-hit games. The team as a whole, with the bats, has not been bad. That's double figures in the hit column over the last 2 contests.
Yes, they have had their moments in this series, and they will be without a big power bat moving forward here, at least for the foreseeable future, as Kellen Clark is back on the injured list today. He was only off the injured list for about a week there, and he did perform during that time, but now he's back on the shelf.
Yeah, an undisclosed injury. We're not really sure what's going on, but that definitely does leave a big gap in the lineup because even though he hasn't played enough games to qualify in the leaderboard, he would be the number 1 hitter in the Pioneer League with a .433 clip.
Yes, indeed. He has been solid to start the season when he has been on the field. Now, it's been 19 runners left on base here combined over these first couple of ball games. They had 11 hits yesterday. They've had their moments, Jesse. But what's been missing in your eyes?
What's been missing is getting that guy on third home. The team does not take a whole lot of walks in this series. Oakland doesn't hand out a lot of walks, so they have to get more aggressive at the plate with these pitches. They're not striking out in droves, but it could be better.
Well, one guy who's keeping a positive attitude is Vibe center fielder Carter Booth, and we caught up with him pregame. Here with Vibes center fielder Carter Booth. Carter, this team has had its hot streaks on the year, some cold ones as well. The Vibes have lost 3 in a row. What does it take to come into a ball game like this one, having lost the first 2 games of the series, keeping your head held high and keep those vibes up in the dugout?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just taking each day as its own opportunity, not worrying too much about what happened in the past, and just doing our best to move on and come out on top.
What are some things you picked up on from these Oakland pitchers here over these first couple of ball games of the series?
They definitely have some quality arms over there, and I think they just have a pretty good sense of how to pitch to some of our guys, and we're just kind of struggling to adjust early on, but I think we're going to do a good job of adjusting.
Yeah. The offense has had its moments as well. There have been 19 runners left on base combined over these first couple of games of the series. What adjustments do you foresee making here for this group entering Game 3?
Just trying to do our best to string together quality at-bats and trying not to be too selfish at the plate and just doing what we can to help the team win.
Now, a cool thing happening today for the Vibes, hitting coach Ernie Yake activated. He played last year, of course, but he's been helping you guys out on the coaching side of things here these first couple of weeks. What is your reaction to that?
I mean, it's pretty awesome. Some of these guys in the clubhouse have had the experience of having Ernie as a teammate and now coach and now back to teammate. So me only really being around him with him as a coach, he's a very, very laid-back guy, keeps it simple, and I think that'll transition pretty smoothly to him joining the roster.
And what are some things you've learned from Ernie here over these first couple of weeks as a Vibe?
Just kind of how I mentioned earlier, just not really worrying about past results and just kind of taking things one day at a time. It's a long season, so can't get caught up in past results.
That's awesome. Now, we witnessed you doing your stretch routine and your daily routine out here on the field a couple of minutes ago. You were barefoot while doing that. Now, this is a common thing for you. You've called it grounding. It's a thing that a lot of people like to do. Sure. What does that do for you?
It just kind of helps me start my day, gives me a chance to just feel the earth, and then I kind of like to go into some form of a meditation, and just kind of helps me keep a clear head going into game day.
How long has that been a routine for you?
Honestly, since I got into college, so around 6 or 7 years now.
That's really cool. Have you inspired some of the other guys to perhaps participate with you?
Yeah, there's been a few different guys who have kind of seen me in the corner out in the field and asked what I'm doing. and they've some of them have taken me up on it, and they're pretty open-minded to it. So it's definitely a cool tool to add to your bag.
Now, one thing that's really cool about, I guess, the grounding side of things is your defensive play. You always have a solid first step. You've made a whole lot of running catches in center field so far this season. How much pride do you take in your defense?
You know, I really grew up loving defense. I think, honestly, it comes from a little bit of a football background. Being out there kind of feels like I'm running routes, catching passes. So, you know, you just got to try to make it seem fun, and making those diving plays definitely help do that. So,
being from Oregon, are you an Oregon Ducks fan?
You know, I grew up I loved Duck football, Beaver baseball, and I actually went to Oregon State my freshman year of college, redshirted there. So that was a pretty cool experience doing that. But, yeah, Duck football was definitely pretty fun watching early on.
All right, thanks so much, Carter. Good luck today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great stuff, as always, from Carter Booth. We're going to talk about grounding, and it's a pretty cool routine to come to the ballpark, meditate a bit, feel like you're one with the earth. Have you ever pondered that, Jessica?
Well, last year the team I worked for had a turf field, so that wasn't an option. But up in Alaska 2 years ago, I did it, and that was a short-lived experience because the mosquitoes up there are pretty big.
Yes, I would imagine they are. And I'll give you a brief side story. When I was in the Cape Cod League last summer, our hitting coach for the Wareham Gateman, Mike Mobbs, he would always mow the infield grass barefoot before every home game. So I always think about Mike Mobbs when I hear about grounding. So.
Sounds dangerous.
Yes, it might be. Anyways, back to the pitching rotation here for these Vibe series. They faced the Oakland Ballers in Game 3 of this 6-game series. We saw Wyatt Tucker yesterday. Ultimately, he took the loss. He went 5 innings out there, 9 runs, 7 earned. What did you see from him yesterday?
Well, he was attacking the zone, which is one of his strengths. But this is an Oakland team that can really hammer the ball. So when you try and paint the corners of the zone and you miss by a little bit, either it's ball 4 or they're taking it to the outfield. So you really have to be precise. And he only walked 2 batters, but he did allow 9 hits.
Yes, indeed. Evidently leaving a couple of balls up in the zone wound up being the difference for Wyatt Tucker in that one. Now, let's turn the page to today. Nick Powers, the left-hander, on the mound for the Vibes. The opening day starter back over a month ago. No better guy to turn to when you're in a losing streak like this.
No, he has the 2 best strikeout performances on the season. 10 on opening day and 9 a couple starts ago. So if you're trying to get someone who can blow it by these Oakland hitters, I think Nick Powers is the guy to look to.
Hopefully he ate his Chipotle today. That would be pretty cool. Powers last time out took a no decision during the road trip over at Yuba Sutter, but his last start at home was terrific. He gave up just 3 earned runs over 6 1/3, and he'll face Dylan Matsuoka today for the Ballers.
And he's struggled lately. He has a 2-0 record on the season, but that is one that was achieved during his first 2 starts. Over the last 4, he's allowed at least 3 runs in each of those outings.
So let's take a look now at the Pioneer League standings entering play here today. The Oakland Ballers tied at the top with the Missoula Paddleheads, 28-10. They have won 7 in a row. Remember, they took 5 from the Boise Hawks, and now the first 2 here at Rocky Mountain. They're just firing on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to avoid them, and they're playing against a Great Falls team this week that you see in last.
Yes, indeed. And the Rocky Mountain Vibes have slid down from 5th to 7th, with Boise and Ogden both securing wins yesterday. You see Yuba Sutter and Idaho Falls are ahead of them as well. Those top now 7 teams separated by 6.5 ball games. The Vibes at one point were the top team in the Pioneer League, but over these last couple of weeks, it's been a steady descent.
Well, 2 series losses, 1 to Grand Junction, 1 to Yuba Sutter, who's climbing up in those rankings. And we've seen Yuba Sutter take a couple games against Glacier. They're going at it again at 7. So it's very interesting to see what else is going on in the Pioneer League that affects the Vibes besides this losing skid.
Yes, indeed. Let's take a look at some of the other games happening today in the Pioneer League. The Colorado Springs Sky Sox, formerly known, the artist formerly known now as the Northern Colorado Owls, they face the Grand Junction Jackalopes over at Simplesio Field. Ogden and Idaho Falls are back at it tonight at 7. Yuba Sutter and Glacier going at it as well. Boise looking to get on a bit of a run against the Billings Mustangs. And, of course, Missoula facing one of the bottom feeders in the Great Falls Voyagers. What games do you have your eye on today, Jesse?
Well, you mentioned that Boise game. I'm interested to see what happens because that's a Billings team that gave the Vibes a lot of trouble. The first non-series win, it was a split 3 games apiece, but that preceded the decline out of first place. So if the Boise Hawks can really make an impact here and put Billings in a bad spot, then I think that also shows the Vibes a little of what was going wrong. If someone who was giving you trouble is being beaten down on by one of the other top teams in the league, then you've got some ground for how you can figure things out.
Rocky Mountain looking to get back to their winning ways tonight with Nick Powers on the bump. First pitch coming up just after this with starting lineups.